Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Hey, Bill.
What a rough week, huh? We got shit going on everywhere.
It's just starting. We're at the front end of crazy town. Like, even yesterday drive.
Yeah.
30 miles that way, 30 miles that way, 20 miles that way, 20 miles back. Woo!
I have to admit something, though.
Yes, you do.
I have to admit this.
What?
In public.
What?
When it gets hot like this, the cigar smoking slows way down.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why, but it does.
Is it harder to breathe with the smoke or something?
Just
crazy?
Kind of makes it. I smoke Maduros, which are heavy cigars, and sometimes they just make me nauseous.
Wow.
Because of the heat.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, episode number 158.
Wow.
Clear my throat. Episode 158, Peter.
158.
How to improve your real estate deal structure skills effortlessly.
Effortlessly.
How to improve your real estate deal structure skills effortlessly.
You mean you claim that you can help people figure out deal structuring, which seems to be very difficult, and it'll be effortlessly?
It's not difficult. You guys are difficult. The deal structure is easy. You guys add all kinds of extra crap in there.
Well, the rookies may not understand it well enough to mix and match, and so
we're going to work on that today.
Lead on, fearless.
In today's podcast, we'll be going over. Actually, let me start over. In today's podcast, we're going to concentrate on why the greatest guru hoax is to have you study and follow their confusing and most often old strategies of buying real estate. Think of this, Peter. If you are confused, you will need to keep coming back to them and buy more goodies and more goodies and more goodies.
I've seen that.
Right?
I've had people complain. I bought this, and then I had to buy something else, and I bought that, then,
So what advantage do they have of actually getting you straightened out?
It's like Big Pharma.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We won't go there. A secret, Big Pharma. He's talking about pharmaceutical. If you actually got healed and they didn't sell pills anymore, where would they be? A secret way to almost guarantee the best results and highest success is to keep it simple and easy. So, if you want to take charge of your real estate investing career, this episode is exactly what your bank account ordered. Instead, I'm going to demonstrate some deal structuring right in front of your eyes so you can get real live evidence on how to use each type of the 7 offer strategies that I have used to buy over $50 million in real estate myself personally. This is not my students, not anybody else, just me personally. Without bankers, without realtors, without credit, without risk, or any other downfall that any of our listeners could possibly conjure up. This unbelievable podcast should be behind a paid membership, though. It really should.
Yeah.
But here's Bill's personality peeking through. I'm tired of people keep asking me these questions, and I got to explain it over and over and over again. Okay? So for those pesty people, here you go. Here's the podcast. So what we did is look, Peter, no script.
I know.
All I have is deal structures in front of me. So we're going to jump right in. Where there's no theory, there's no blah, blah, blah. We're just going to jump right in.
You know how to do it.
So when you are looking to buy a piece of real estate and you're on the phone with a potential seller And I mean potential because not all sellers really want to sell, right? So the first thing you need to do when you're talking to somebody about selling their house is ask them if they have a house for sale. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're calling for their uncle or the genie in the bottle, or, just to see what you want to give them so they can feel good about their savings account, aka their equity.
Yep.
Right? You had one the other day, the old lady, right?
Yeah.
She just wanted to know how much it was worth.
Yep.
So they think that you can call up and kind of, you ever go to the parts store for your car?
Sure.
You go there and say, hey, I'd like to get an alternator for my 1989 Nissan.
Mm-hmm.
And what does he do? He goes over to the book, right?
Yeah.
Now it's computers, but he goes over to the book,
Yeah.
pulls it out, says, that'll be $89. And I got one.
Yeah.
Or I got to order it from the warehouse. It'll be here this afternoon at 3 o'clock.
Sure.
Right? That's the way people think when they call you up, that you're just going to flip the book open. Oh, well, it's worth $110,000 without looking at it or anything.
Alternators are alternators. They might be a little better, a little worse, but they're close enough. The alternator for an 89 Nissan is the alternator for an 89 Nissan. But every house is different.
That's right.
Every house is different. Even if you where I bought my house, after I bought it, I looked in the neighborhood. Ooh, I moved to the project. It's like 50 years ago. They're exactly the same house.
Right.
But over 50 years, all the additions they have modified. So it really wasn't. But it was the same house.
Right.
The lot was different maybe, but it would have been close.
Right.
But still, it's a corner. It's at the end. It's a cul-de-sac. There's too many trees, whatever. But it's not an alternator.
Right.
Sorry.
So they want that. So the first thing you got to do is ask them if they have a house for sale.
Yep.
Second thing you got to do is you have to distinguish in the opening call, which is when, like if you're doing for sale by owner scripts, which you can find our for sale by owner script at flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff. You can, when you're on that call, you need to figure out, are they a cash seller? Do they want their money now?
Yep.
Or are they willing to take payments until you can pay them off?
Yeah.
If they're a cash seller, that's okay, but there has to be a deep discount.
Mm-hmm.
If they're a person that is willing to take payments, at that point, you just might want to get some mortgage information so you make sure the payments make sense so that you're not paying like $6,000 for a $150,000 mortgage, right, per month.
Sure.
Other than that, go make the appointment. Okay? Once you figure out, A, do they want all cash now? Or B, are they willing to make payments until you pay them off? The next thing you need to figure out is how you're going to pay them. There's only 4 places, which we talk about this in other podcasts. There's only 4 places to get money.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bank. That's the hard money lender. That's the private lender. And that's your buyer.
Right.
Now, I used to say 3 places to get money because I put hard money and private money together, but I've separated them out because it was confusing for some people. So there's 4 places to get money for real estate. The bank, hard money lender, private money lender, and the buyer.
Right.
You and I specialize in 3 and 4. We don't use the bank. We don't use hard money lenders because they're very close nowadays. The hard money guy is just in disguise. He doesn't have American National Bank stamped on his forehead, but American National Bank will give him the money.
Right.
Right. He's just in disguise. Okay. So we use private lenders and we use the buyers to fund our deals. Okay. Once you figure those things out, the next thing you need to figure out is how much does he owe compared to how much the house is worth. We call that a loan to value ratio. Right? So the loan to value ratio means if he owes if he owes $80,000 and the house is worth $100,000, it's an 80% loan to value ratio. So what you do is you get a calculator, you turn it on, push the on button. I'm sorry I have to do this, but push the on button, and then you type in the calculator $80,000, and then you hit the divide button, and you type in the calculator $100,000, and you hit equals, and that gives you your loan to value ratio.
Right.
Okay. Once you have that number, you're then ready to deal with my 7 offer strategy. So I'm going to just blurt them out here. And if you're listening to this podcast later on, you should write them down, or you can go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff, and there's a video for each. There's a video on what loan to value ratio is, and there's a video on the 7 deals, and it breaks each deal down. It shows what they do. Today, what we're going to do is once I go through the 7 deals and we decide what they are, I'm going to actually give you examples of each one of the 7 deals. I actually have a document in front of me that will soon be on the website so you can get it. But for right now, I'm just going to read it to you so that you can get an example, because today I just want to give examples, real examples, not my standard examples like I normally do. These are like real deals
cool.
that I've done at one point in my life. Okay. So here we go. So the first type of a deal of the 7 is a slot deal. A slot stands for, it's an acronym that stands for Sandwich Lease Option Transfer. We used to say there was a sandwich lease option transaction, but it's not really. We changed that. So if you've heard me say transaction in the past, it's because it's been changed. It's a sandwich lease option transfer.
Yeah, it's more accurate.
Right. So the reason why is because when you're with your seller, you're going to get a lease option with them, and then you're going to transfer it to your buyer and not stay in the deal.
Right.
Okay. So this is when this type of a deal is when a person has 0% loan to value ratio. Okay. I'm sorry, 100% loan to value ratio, 0% equity.
Right.
The next one down is an option. An option is when they have 90% loan to value ratio and 10% equity. The next one down from that is a lease option. That's when they have 85% loan to value ratio and 15% equity. The next one down from that is the famous subject to, or as we call it, getting the deed. Right? Subject to means that you're taking over the mortgage payment, that people deed you the house, and then you take over the mortgage. You take over their debt. That has an 80% loan to value ratio and 20% in equity. The next one down from that is the famous rehab retail. That's got 70% worth of loan to value and 30% in equity. The next one below that is wholesale. That has 60% loan to value ratio and 40% equity. And the one below that is owner financing. It has no loan to value ratio and 100% in equity. Now, once you figure out what your loan to value ratio is, it allows you, it points you in the directions of the different offers that you can make. So if you have a loan to value ratio of 80%, what you do is you look at the scale that I just gave to you, and you can get it on flippinghousesforrookies.com, free stuff. Okay. You look at the scale, and if they have 80% equity, you can't give them a 70% offer, because that means they're going to come out of pocket with the closing, right?
Right, because loan to value tells you how much they owe.
Right.
And you could pay them that amount, so at least they're
breaking,
or more, but at least they're breaking even.
Right.
Less than that, they're not breaking even. You're kind of insulting them, and you're not going to look too good in their eyes. Like, you want to give me less than I owe? You're not going to look good.
In some cases, you could do that, but they're 1 out of 100, 1 out of 1,000, whatever the number is.
Yeah, but you got an idea where you should start now.
Right. The one of the houses we're buying right now, I mean, the guy's giving up. I mean, he's blowing $50,000. You know, but that's not normal. You know what I mean? It's just not the way it's supposed to be. Right. So the reason for the scale, the offer scale, which is really what it is, the deal structures, is so you know where to start, and then work your way up. So if you have an 80% deal, you make an 80% offer first. If you have a 85% loan to value, you do that one next. If they say no, then you go to a 90%. And if they say no, then you go to 100%. And those are, if you start on the scale and you got 80% loan to value ratio, then you would start off with a getting the deal or subject to deal. If they say no to that, then you move up to a lease option. If they say no to a lease option, you move up to an option. And if they say no to that, you move up to a slot deal. Right? And that's how it works. Each offer is segmented in their own bucket. So when you're giving a subject to offer, you don't talk about the other offers. You talk about just the getting the deed or the subject to nuances and how it works. Until they say, no way, I'm not doing that, you keep talking about that. And then when they say no, then you say, well, I have another idea. And you move up to the lease option and you use that presentation. Okay? And that's pretty much how it works. So, where are we? 15 minutes in. I did that in 15 minutes. Wow, I think that's my record.
Real estate in 15 minutes with Bill this morning.
So what we're going to do now is I'm actually going to give you, because we talk about this all the time, and you can go on my videos, and I'm on flippinghouses4rookies.com, free stuff, and you can go watch these videos, and you can download these forms and all this stuff we're talking about all for free. What I have not done before is I've not talked about real live offers and examples in the results. So that's exactly what we're going to do now. Okay, so here we go. So an example of the slot deal structure, the seller's asking $190,000 because that's what his loan is, $190,000. Okay. My offer was...
And what's the house worth?
It's worth $190,000.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's dead even, no equity, no profit.
Right. If they sold it, they'd have to bring money to the bank.
Right, because it costs money to sell a house. The realtor, closing costs, all that stuff adds up, and then you're not getting that from the buyer.
So my offer was $190,000 option to buy for the loan balance at the time of the purchase with a 5-year lease agreement. So they owed $190. Now, obviously, I'm not giving the dollars and the cents, but they owed $190, $183, $50, whatever the number is. So I'm going to give them an option to buy for the loan balance at the time of the purchase with a 5-year lease agreement. Okay? You must be very clear about your intentions with the seller that you plan to find a tenant buyer, right? You like, before you can start making payments, and the seller should not exit the deal once started.
And when you said you like, a seller would approve the buyer?
Right. If I like them, then the likelihood the seller will want.
You like them, and then you get the seller to agree to, because he's going to be with this guy.
Right.
Because we're exiting.
The reason why I say that is because some people have a very fine ethical line, and they would, because the way we're going to make our money, we're going to talk about it in a minute, but the way we're going to make our money is with a fee, and they may not take in consideration how solid the tenant's moving in, and all they want is their fee money.
Sure, because they're out of it as soon as that happens. But the seller's stuck with the guy for a few years, and that could be a problem.
Right.
And that's not a good deal ethically.
Right. So I don't do that because it's just problems down the road, and you won't stay in business very long. Right. So
and there's plenty of people out there. It's not hard to find a better person. Just get the better person.
So I buy for $190,000, promise to pay $190,000, and then and then I got 5 years to pay for it. Okay. And that the person that's really going to pay for it is going to be the buyer.
Right.
So I'm very clear with the owner, right, that before I can start making the payments, I have to find my buyer. Now, the truth of the matter is that if a realtor had this property, when would they start making the payments?
Gee, Bill, I didn't think they made payments.
Exactly.
Yeah. But there's 6 months of you just waiting around.
Right. So we're going to sign an agreement for 30 days. I'm sorry, for 90 days. And hope to sell in 30 days. Okay. Yep. Now, here's what happens. You sell the property or sign an option agreement with someone, your buyer, for $200,000. They've got a 5-year term, 5-year time period to go get it qualified for a mortgage. And the rent equals the seller's mortgage payments. Right? Then you assign your agreement to the seller, and it releases the original agreement with you.
You don't raise the rent more than the mortgage?
No. Sometimes I will, but
I know you like to when you're in the deal because
Right.
it's an
but
incentive.
sometimes I'll do that for the seller and then say, oh, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
I like to deliver any deal I like to do. I like to deliver some abundance,
Yeah.
exchange in abundance of
Yeah.
some sort. I like to do something like just for a stupid example, just so you understand. Like I just put some new tenants in one of my apartments, and these are just things that I do, little things that I do, and you know this because you work with me all the time.
Yeah.
So we had a tenant, and I had to meet them to get their deposit money. So I went to Home Depot and I made keys for them, and I got. There was a mother and a daughter. The mother was in her 60s. The daughter was in, I think, her 30s. And I made keys. But I made 2 separate set of keys, and I bought them a key ring. Like a key ring, so that a little clip, so that they can like put it on their pocketbook or on their loop of their pants or something like that. But I made 2 separate ones, so it was like one key ring was one color and another key ring was another color, and the keys were different colors, so they could like know whose key is what.
Sure.
So. Did it cost me any more money? Yeah, an extra $5 maybe.
Yeah.
But the response I got, oh, that's so nice. When I gave them their keys, it's like I made you one and I made you one. It's the little things like that when I mean abundance, that's what I mean.
Something
I don't mean
extra.
that I'm giving, but I'm not like saying, oh, you bought a diamond from me for $1,000, and I'm going to give you a blue diamond that's worth $10,000. No, that's not what I'm talking about.
That's cuckoo.
Yeah.
No, just we have a mutual friend that he paints houses, and when he's done doing the house, he goes in the living room and puts a bunch of logs and everything ready to just light it for the fireplace.
Oh,
and people walk in, and they torch it.
Right.
And it's just a nice touch.
Right.
My father.
I don't understand what you just said, but okay. So the painter puts logs in the fireplace.
Yeah,
that's a little creepy.
No, it's a fireplace. You put logs.
Okay, so he stages the place.
He stages the place, but he makes it so when you come in, your house is done. Come home and light the fire. My father would go with his customers and cut their hair when they're in the hospital for free, just because it's a good customer, a rich guy, whoever. He would just go do that for them as a courtesy.
So
something.
All my point is that when you deliver, so in this particular case, I would not say anything to the seller until I had it done. But if the mortgage payment was $1,400, I might find someone that's willing to pay $1,500 or $1,600, and I go back and say, "Guess what? You got an extra $200 a month for you."
Yep.
I mean, why would I do that? I'm making my 5 or 10 or whatever grand.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm cool. I don't want to stay in the deal. It's not worth it for me to stay in that deal for $200 a month, because if I got a $1,400 a month payment, and I have no equity, I have no backup anywhere, right?
There's no equity in the house. It was
no
dead
equity.
Nope.
Yeah, and there's no backup. There's no other place to take the money from, right? I don't want to have a $1,400 a month payment, because if they miss one payment, it's going to take me 7 months to make up that one payment. So the $200 a month is not enough for me.
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
So in this case, where we bought this $190,000 house, we sold it for $200,000, and we got $10,000 because they put down a $10,000 option consideration deposit. So we got a fee. So let's just run through that real quick so that people don't get confused. When you sign an option agreement means that you've clarified or delineated or written down on a document, this is the agreement in writing. Okay? And it says, Peter, I promise to pay you $190,000 for your property sometime in the next 5 years. So when I bring you the $190,000, you're agreeing to sell it to me, so that I don't bring you the $190,000 and you say, "Oh, I changed my mind. Somebody else is going to give me $200,000."
Right.
Right. Now that can happen, but you have to do it in writing, and there's a whole bunch of different ways that has to be done. Right. So the option is, I have the option to buy your house within the next 5 years for $190,000. That's the option. I have an option to buy from you. Now, you're obligated to sell to me, but I'm not obligated to buy from you. Right? So that's how an option works. Now, because we wrote this agreement, the only way that we can actually make it work is we have to pass some money between us. Okay, so I'm going to give you $100. It could be $1, it could be 10, it could be 1,000. I'm going to give you $100 to make it legal. It's called legal tender.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to make it legal, I'm going to give you $100. Now it's a legal document. Okay, I now have the option to buy your property. Because I did that, I just got an equity share in your property. I bought $100 worth of equity from you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and because I now have a equity share in the property, I don't need a license to go and sell the property. Because now I'm like considered a part owner.
Yeah, you're kind of selling the house you part own.
Right.
Okay. You can sell your own stuff, in other words, in our country.
Right.
You have to hire a guy to sell your own stuff.
Exactly, and pay him a commission.
Yeah.
So that's how we get away with that. The second thing I want to cover, and the last thing, and then we're going to move on, is why would the guy that's buying the house pay $200,000 for a house that's worth $190,000? Because I'll get a support ticket on that.
Of course. Yeah. First time you said that, like, well, if he can't sell it, how come
right
someone else will buy it? So
first thing you have to realize is that when you come in onto Bill's planet, you need to figure a few things out, and until they click, you may not totally get it. I don't sell houses, and that's the thing you got to get over. I don't sell houses. Matter of fact, I'm not in the real estate business. I'm actually in the marketing business.
Mm-hmm.
I buy and sell pieces of paper that control houses. And I don't sell the houses when I sell them. So if you're going to do a rehab retail deal, you're gonna buy a house, you're gonna fix it, and then you're gonna flip it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or you're gonna sell it.
Yeah, in that case, you're selling.
The house because they're bringing all the money to you. And what's happening nowadays is usually younger people like the millennials don't have enough money, so they're stretching as far as they go, and they're using all their money, and mom and dad are helping them, blah blah blah, and they're using everything they can to get the mortgage. So what they're trying to do, their viewpoint is, once I go in this house, I want to make sure I don't have to do anything for 2 or 5 years or 3 years or whatever they have in their head.
Repairs, fix up.
So when you're selling the house, they're going to nitpick you to make sure everything's done so they don't have to worry about it because they've used all their money and they have nothing left to fix a toilet or change the color of a counter or get a new light bulb or whatever, a new color of a rug, whatever. I mean, there's all different things that they want, right?
Yeah, but beside the money, they don't have the patience and the chops. Right. I'm sorry. They don't. There's no keyboard connected to it. Sorry.
Exactly, yeah.
My kid fixed the toilet the other day. I was impressed on his own. Yeah. But a lot of times, well, he's a little older. But a lot of times, they just don't have the patience or the interest touching things.
So, I'm picking on millennials, but she's not even listening. She's got her headphones on and she's typing over there.
Well, it's just... Who comes to your door anymore and say, can I mow your lawn? Can I rake your leaves? Can I shovel your snow? The kids don't do anything like that anymore. They just, sorry, they just don't.
A couple old guys here.
we remember those days.
So, at the end of the day, what I'm selling is the financing. So, my business, although I seems like I'm in the real estate business, I'm in the marketing business because I'm going to try to find someone that is willing to give me an option agreement or a piece of paper, let me pay $100 for it, and go sell it to my buyer for $10,000.
Right. And why is he paying that extra amount?
Because if he were to, it's a bad example, but if you were to buy my computer today for $1,000 and give me $1,000 in cash, you paid $1,000 for the computer. Mm-hmm. But if you bought my computer today and paid $1,000 and put it on your credit card and paid for it for 2 years or 5 years, you're paying more than $1,000, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the homeowner that we're selling to is the same person. He can't qualify for a mortgage. He can't go get the money, so he's got to buy on credit. So he's not paying more. It's just that the fees for the credit.
He has to pay a little bit of a premium because he's in a bit of a jam to get out of the jam.
Right. But we're going to help him so that when we get done with him, he's not only going to have a house, but he's going to fix whatever jam he's in so he can move on with his life. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, he can live in the house and have the usage of the house.
Sure.
And that's how it works.
It's like when you get in a jam, you got to put crap on your credit card, and it's 18% interest, and you're paying more. Why? You got in a jam.
Right.
Get yourself out, and then you'll be okay.
Right, exactly.
But there's an extra premium to get out of jail, get out of the pit.
So we spent a little bit more time on that because we explained the option.
Mm-hmm.
So another example, so that's a slot deal. So the next one down is an option deal. An option deal has 90% loan to value, 0% equity. Here's a good example. I'm not going to explain all that stuff that we just explained because it actually explains the next three deals, right? So the seller's asking $200. The seller is asking $180,000, and the value of it is $200. So it's worth $200. They're asking $180, which is 90% loan to value ratio. Okay. Your offer is to give them $180 for 3 to 6 months. Okay. No terms, no risk. It's just much like a realtor. Okay. You give them $100 deposit.
Right.
Okay. You sell the house for $190, not $200, for $190. So this is a big problem I have, especially when the market's at a peak like it is right now, because we're like midway through 2019, and it's peaked. I mean, the market has peaked. Hang on, because it's going to adjust.
The roller coaster's at the top.
It's coming. Yep.
We hope it doesn't go down too far.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're doing an option agreement, in marketing, there's this thing called a unique selling proposition. That means that you're different than everybody else. So what I would like you to do, Mr. Educator, is give me the definition of indifference. Indifference. Right.
I wasn't expecting that in the middle of this one. Indifference. Well, that's like somebody doesn't quite care about something. That they don't have a real preference one way or the other. Like, what do you want to eat? I don't care. I'm indifferent. Either one.
So it's like,
is that what you're thinking?
Everything is the same.
Yeah.
Right. It's all equal.
Yeah.
There's nothing that stands out.
Like when you moved into my housing complex 50 years ago, they pretty much looked a lot like each other.
Right.
So which one do you want? One on the left, one on the right.
So without a unique selling proposition, you'll have indifference.
Yeah.
Right? Everything will be everything. I mean, they say right now, like, you get hit with 3,000 ads a day or some stupid thing like that.
Oh, there's so much stuff, like, it just rolls over you.
So basically what I'm trying to say is a unique selling proposition, in my simple-minded terms, is you have to get attention. You have to stand out. And my marketing strategies, which are not liked by most, are I like them to be ugly. If you're on my email list, I can't tell you how many of people have told me, you misspell words, your grammar's wrong. And it's honest, because sometimes I do misspell words, but sometimes I intentionally do it. The point is you stand out. It stands out, especially sentences that I want people to read. I most of the time purposely misspell words and purposely do the grammar. Now, back in the day, I didn't know any different. Now I know the difference. You know, 95% of the time or 90% of the time I realize I'm doing something wrong. Or, you know, things like I'll use the wrong spelling of a word. Like, instead of through, THROUGH, I'll type in THREW. You know, that kind of stuff, right? So it's to stand out. Marketing, I'm going to tell you right now, the best marketing on the planet, and you know, because I spend a lot of money on marketing education. I still do to this day, right? It's my hobby, right? The uglier it is, the better it works. Okay? So the reason why I'm ranting on about this is because this applies to an option. If there's 180 houses on the market with the realtor, and you need to stand out from them, what makes this house different that they're going to come to you instead of a realtor? When you have an option agreement, what about this deal is going to attract the people from the realtors? So think of it this way.
Why would they buy this house when there's a bunch of realtors and MLS competing? Good. Why are they going to buy this house?
So I'm going to kind of go off on just a short tangent here to give you a real good picture of this, okay?
Yeah.
Envision your church, excuse me, having like a little carnival. the Ferris wheels and they got the booth where you pop the balloons with the little darts.
Yeah.
Right. The guy sitting in the water tank, and you got to throw the baseball, and it dunks in the water tank, and there's some greasy food, like the
cotton candy,
and the kids are running around, and you parked out way out on the grass, with the dusty dust bowl out there, and you walked in, and it's hot, and it's kind of like it's like summertime.
Isn't it awesome?
Right? It is fantastic. Okay.
But
and I was going to say musician. That's not what I say. A magician. I have a magic show.
Uh-huh.
And I'm right across the street from the carnival.
Ooh.
What would I do to attract people's attention that are in the carnival to come watch my magic show?
Better think of something good.
Okay. Even worse than that. Let's go completely dramatic. You're in the woods, deep in the woods. Completely naked.
Where are you going with this?
Completely naked.
Ouch.
With a big, fat, bloody, juicy steak chained to your neck that you can't get off.
Oops.
And a hungry bear on your trail.
Eat the steak, eat the steak, eat the steak.
What can I say and what can I do to get your attention at that moment?
Oh, I think the steak's going to do it.
But you got a hungry bear chasing you.
Yeah.
So what can I do to you're thinking this bear's going to get me, this bear's going to get me. What can I do or what can I say to get your attention? So those are dramatic, but it gives you the idea. What's going to take the attention off of all the other houses in that area and get them to come to yours? Mm-hmm. Because when we sell on the other types, we offer no bank qualifying. So the no bank qualifying and selling the financing, not the house, is what makes us all our money. In this particular case, we're not selling financing. We're selling the house.
This is the house.
And we need, and if we didn't renovate it or if it's not pretty or whatever. And so my long dissertation here comes down to when you're selling options, you have to be right below the market value. So the best thing you can do is to be able to buy it low enough so that it's the cheapest house in the neighborhood, but it looks like the rest. Mm-hmm. So in this particular case, an option that's worth $200, the property's worth $200. You bought it for $180. If you sell it for $190, then that will be the attraction. Mm-hmm. Or there's other things. Sometimes the house has features and things like that you can turn into some sort of an attraction.
Right.
I'm sorry, my mind drifted because I haven't told you this yet, but I'm in the middle of buying a $400,000 house in Southington.
Yeah.
And I was thinking yesterday, randomly, don't ask me where the thought came from, but I'll probably end up at that house next week. We're going to sign paperwork, I think, next Wednesday night. But it's got a beautiful pool in the back. Mm. So what I was thinking, which I've never done before, is I was actually thinking about having a pool party in the neighborhood.
Wow.
And get hot dogs
like
and
an
hamburgers.
open house?
Yeah.
Like an open house,
but
pool
a pool party.
Wow, that'd be attraction.
You know what I mean? So it's like advertise it.
A one-day sale. Boom.
Yeah. And what I was thinking about doing is actually turning it into some sort of an auction. So they come to the pool party, they look at the house, and the highest deposit and the highest rent gets the house.
Wow.
But do it like a pool party.
That's an awesome idea.
Yeah. So that's that's what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, I get to wear my shorts and flip-flops, smoke my cigar.
You're going to smoke your cigar?
Tell everybody what to do, and talk to people about giving me money.
So only people who like cigars will buy the house?
No. We'll be outside by the pool, Peter. That'll be fun.
Oh, just be downwind. Be upwind.
Example of a lease option structure.
Next.
So, I totally ignored that. So, example of a lease option, you're watching me, is so the seller's asking, or the value of the house, I keep doing that. The value of the house is $200,000. Mm-hmm. They're asking $170 after you negotiated. Okay? And they're willing to take the delayed cash out. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they're willing to not get all their money now. Now, why would somebody do that? That's the first question we're going to get. because they got a $150,000 loan balance, and technically if we did a good job with the cost to sell worksheet, they're going to realize if they got a $200,000 house and if they sold it conventionally, it's going to cost them 20 or 30 grand anyways. Mm-hmm. So what we did is we logically showed them how much they're going to net in their pocket with a realtor or in the conventional system. And we worked from that number, because if it was going to cost 10%, we'll say, which it doesn't, it's usually 12, 13, or 15%. But if it's going to cost them 10% to sell, that means that I should buy, if I paid $180,000 on a $200,000 house, I'm paying full asking price, aren't they? Mm-hmm. And then all I say to them is, well, I'm an investor, so now what we should do. In this particular case, I did that. So we went from the 180 down to 170. He thought I should make 10 grand. Mm-hmm. So I bought the house for 170 on a lease or on a lease option, also known as a rent to own. Mm-hmm. Okay. His loan balance was 150. So he's still getting 20 grand.
Right. He'll get that.
Right.
Yeah.
So my offer was $170,000 on a rent to own or a lease option for 3 years with the right to renew for 4 years. See, that's something that I don't talk enough about, where I'll close them for a 2-year lease, and then when I write the lease and present it to them, I put in the lease the right to renew for one term. So what I do is I get a 2-year lease because they wanted only 2 years, and then I get the right to renew for another 2 more years.
Another 4 years?
2 more years. So I
have
a 2-year lease.
Yeah.
And then I won't negotiate that when I'm buying the property.
You just throw it at them?
So when I do the lease documents, I put it in there. Well, I put this in there because we don't know where we're going to be in 2 years, and I just want to make sure we keep everything in place.
Sure. So what kind of reaction do they get when they see the other 2 years?
Most of the time they do it.
Yeah. I'm noticing in your negotiating, you don't try to do everything at once, because people want all the cash right now, and that'd be great, but it doesn't work that way all the time. They're not going to get it. Well,
listen to the words. You had the right to renew. So
right.
if they're worried, they just say, "Well, you say no, and you don't let me renew it." Oh, okay. Because what I do know is time is going to change everything.
Right.
So in 2 years, they're not thinking what they're thinking today.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2 years, they're going to be like, "Well, he paid every time, and I don't have all the overtime I used to have at my job, and I kind of like the money coming in, and things happen."
Yeah. Beside that, you have a buyer in there who's supposed to get the mortgage and cash the thing out. But if he doesn't in 2 years, right, he's either doing a decent enough job paying, and you give him an extension, or you have to throw him out and get a new guy.
Right.
If you throw them out, what's the guy going to do?
The economy can change, and he's
but what's the seller going to do? Like, I'm sorry, the guy didn't cash out. You want to just drop everything, or just do it again?
The economy can change, and all of a sudden, it's not. He may not, and it may not be so easy to get somebody in there, and he'll just deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
So it's a $170,000 lease with an option to buy for 3 years, with the right to renew for 4 years. Is this particular one? I wrote it that way.
Yeah.
Monthly payments are $1,210. What he pays now.
Yeah.
So it's $1,210, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
Mm-hmm.
No deposit. Balance of the loan paid off within a 7-year term, which is the 20 grand, because I paid 170, he owes 150. Going to the seller when the buyer cashes me out, mm-hmm, or gets a loan, and so I have 7 years to pay off the loan. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, how'd you get from 2 years to 4 years to 7?
So the first option is for 3 years.
Oh.
That's the option agreement,
okay,
is for 3 years.
All right.
I put in there right to renew for 4 more years.
Okay.
4 plus 3 is 7. When I did the money, the 20 grand, I just went for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what the two of them are.
Sure.
Okay. Now, I'm not going to get
up to 7 years.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into this in this podcast. I'm just going to kind of drop a little bomb here. And if you're really interested in this, send me a support ticket, or we'll have to do it in another podcast. It's called collateral swapping.
Mm.
So if I were to get my buyer in this house, and they got 3 years, and in 2 years they cash out,
mm-hmm,
I have $20,000 for 7 years.
Right.
So I would call my seller up and say, would you take, because I'm paying early, would you take $5,000, $8,000, $10,000, $15,000, whatever, right? He doesn't really need the money, which a lot of people are like that. He says no. I would say to him, okay, well, how about if I give you more than $20,000? What do you mean? What if I give you like $23,000 or $25,000 or even the same $20,000? And I take it off your house and I put it into another house that's of more value. What I did is, because my buyer is giving me the 20 grand, so I have it at closing. Yeah, sure. I just built in a new private lender private lender. Yeah, you're using it on another property and go buy it. So now I got 20 grand to go buy another property. And you give him interest on it? Yeah, I'll give him. What I'll do is I'll take the 20 grand and I'll add my 7 or 9%, depending on what I'm going to get, and just give him that number. So, I mean, if it was 10%, it would be $2 grand a year, right? Yeah. So I might give him 2 or 3 years worth of money. So I'll give him 22, 25, whatever. I'll give him more money. It's like, how about if I take it and put it on another property and I'll give you this much more money? Yeah. Right? I have a piece of property that I'm in the middle of buying right now that actually came up. Because the example we were using is he would get $30,000 worth of equity, and the first question he asked me, and he's a young guy, first question he asked me was, what happens if I don't want the 30 grand when you go sell the property? Would you reinvest it? And I said yes. That's crazy. Because he's 40 years old and he's looking to build a nest. And this house, it's like if he takes the money, he knows he'll just spend it. Yeah. He owns a small business. He knows that the money, 30 grand will just disappear. So he'd rather just keep it away from, hidden from himself with somebody like me and let me grow it. Kind of like what you do with stock market. Yeah. And mutual funds. Yep. Right? Okay. It's an investment. Yeah. So here are the results. Ready? So you rent for $2,100, which is a sale price. So you paid how much? You paid one. Well, we didn't pay anything. We promised to pay the $170. Yeah. We're selling for $210. Yeah. Okay, because the house is worth $200. We can get a premium because we already talked about that, right? So we sell for $210, and we get a $10,000 non-refundable deposit, and we get $1,600 a month for rent. Okay. So here are the results. We make $40,000 profit from the sale, right? From the $210 minus the $170 when you cash out, right? We make $28,080 in monthly payments because it's $390 a month. The difference between the $1,600 and the $1,210. Right. And how many years was that? The 3 years? Or the whole? Yeah, I think that was for 3 years. Yeah, adding up 390. Yeah. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, as long as it goes. But oh no, here it is. Here I did it for 72 months. Okay. 6 years. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I kind of put it in the middle. So I did it for 72 months. So you got $28,800 in monthly payments, $390 a month for 72 months. So the total profit on this deal, which you spent $100 to get, is $68,080 over the course of 5 or 6 years. That's awesome. The thing is, well, let's see, 5 years to make $68,000. Yeah, that's one deal. Then do another one. And do another one, and have several of these sitting there. You got cash flow. You got money coming in your pocket. You could retire in 5 years. You got a back end. Yep. You got a house now that's cashing out, and you got a check coming at some point. Right. Yeah, this house a subject to deal that I bought. I don't know, a year and a half ago, and she's talking about cashing out. Not even that $34,000. Not even that long. That's awesome. Yeah. All right, so now let's do it. Where are we in? 48. Okay, 48 minutes. All right, example of getting the deed. Yep. So the same $200,000 value. Excuse me. So they're asking $160,000, right? Because they're motivated to sell. And their loan balance is $150,000. Okay. So in this particular case, they're asking for $160,000 but owe $150,000. I will tell you, in very many of these scenarios, if you just ask this simple question, would you be willing to sell the house for what you owe on it, you'll end up with just the bank balance. Yeah. Okay. But in this case, we didn't. So our offer was $160,000, what they were asking, paying their $1,210 a month mortgage with the principal, interest, and taxes, right? With no deposit. And you'll write a note in second position for the $10,000. No interest, no payments.
Right.
So they owe $150,000. They're asking $160,000. There's a $10,000 difference.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to write a note in second position for the $10,000. Mm-hmm. No interest, no payments. They get that money when you sell. Okay. You rent the property. This is much like the one we just did. You rent the property at a sale price of $210,000. Get a $10,000 non-refundable deposit, right? And it's $1,600 a month for rent. In this particular case, your results are $50,000 profit from the sale because you sold for $210,000 and paid $160,000. Mm-hmm. And then the same thing, you made $28,080 from payments over the course of 72 months. So in this particular case, your profit is $78,080.
The profit seems to increase the lower down you get on the scale of loan-to-value ratios and deals because there's more equity the lower down you go, and you get more of that.
More work.
More work.
Well, talking to your customers and doing that. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to say one thing here to not confuse things. Some states, especially like Texas, you can't do lease options. You can do owner financing. It still works. Okay. The other thing that I'd like to say is that if you were going to do a subject to deal or getting the deed deal, and there's any conversation about they want to get legal advice, don't do a subject to deal with your paperwork. See, when you're doing subject to deal, what they do is they deed you the property. You take over the mortgage payments. The documents are just as simple as getting some release forms, some power of attorney forms, doing a trust declaration, all that kind of stuff. You put it in a trust, right?
So you're doing this directly with the seller,
right?
Not an attorney,
right? If they want to get legal advice, then what I do is I simply do the same deal, the same numbers. The difference is I use what I called a wraparound mortgage.
Right.
In this particular case, it's a perfect way to explain it because their underlying mortgage is $150,000. You're going to write them a mortgage for $160,000. So your mortgage that you're writing encompasses or wraps around the $150,000 they already owe. Now, there's something very clever about this that most people don't get. That's why I'm going to point it out, is when you do a wraparound mortgage, it does not trigger the due on sale clause. Okay? The other thing is if you have a seller that's that hesitant, just do a land contract, which is a third way to do it, is a land contract, or in Connecticut we call it bond for deed. What that means is you write a contract saying that if I do all of these things, one of them is paying the mortgage off. If I do all of these things, will you give me the deed?
Right.
Right? All three of those are the same thing. So it depends on your seller's fear level, on how nervous they are. The point is that if you're doing this business as we talk about, sooner or later you're going to realize that the subject to deal is the best deal because of these three options.
Oh, and the attorneys understand the wraparound mortgage better than just seeing the subject to, and
because the attorneys are immediately going to say, "Why would you give somebody a deed to your house?"
Because they wouldn't,
and keep the mortgage in your name.
Yeah, because they wouldn't do it because they're not motivated. They're not in the same situation they're in.
But if you do a wraparound mortgage, now you have a mortgage document that you can foreclose on and you could execute in a court of law.
Yeah.
And you have more legs to stand on. Okay, just to give you a quick example of this, I have a friend of mine that lives in Connecticut, and one of my coaching clients actually helped me sell the house. It's in Michigan, and the deal was like, it was like, and the guy was a guy like us from Arizona, and I mean just that. I mean it was like, and I finally said to her, "Stop." Stop. Here's what I'm going to do. And I did it as a favor for her, which I kind of don't regret doing now, but I did a lot of work. I mean, I drafted a land contract, which was, I think, 2 or 3 pages long. Now watch the magic of this, because it was not a deal. What happened was, she used to live in Michigan and has an ex-husband who still lives there. The money
in Michigan, not in the house though.
No,
the house is vacant.
Correct. Has been for a couple of years, and she's paying like, it's a $500,000 house on a lake. She's paying like $3,500 a month without the taxes. She was behind like, I don't know. I think almost $20,000 in taxes.
Oh,
right. It was like a whole situation.
Jesus.
Right, and she feels, and the reason why is because the ex-husband is part of the Good Old Boy Network, plays golf with them, all the bankers. He's like in this like little clique. Right, because it's a small town, right? Long story short, the ex-husband, who was very willing to sign the documents, all of a sudden decided he should go to the bank and tell the bank what they're doing. So what started out as a very simple deal, which is my friend owning the house, my coaching client's involved. The person buying the house in Arizona is involved. Now her lawyer got involved. The bank got involved. And the ex-husband got involved. Mm. So there's 6 people.
Something's bound to go wrong.
And they all have a different opinion of what should happen.
Ooh, but who owns the house? Both of them do. Yeah.
He's got to sign. She's got to sign.
And she's doing all the payments and he's not.
Right.
How did that happen?
Right.
Wow.
So at the end of the day, I wrote this land contract, which took me, I wrote it specifically for her, so it took me a couple hours. Normally I just, it doesn't take me that long, but it took me a couple hours. I wrote this contract, and I kid you not, it's about 2 weeks later. They all signed the document. Everybody agreed. The bankers, the lawyers, her ex-husband, the buyer. Everybody was like, we made a few tweaks here and there. Mm-hmm. We added a couple sentences. Done.
You said that was a land contract?
That was a land contract. Here we call it a bond for deed. So all I'm trying to emphasize here is that these subject to deals are misunderstood too often. Mm-hmm. That's why people don't like them. The reason why I like them so much is because I really understand them, like this deal, and I know that there's different ways to do the paperwork.
Right.
Okay. Now, I don't know any other way to explain that. I've got a lot of training on this. I'll gladly, my coaching guys get it all the time. If you want to get in my coaching group, I will gladly. I'm telling you that this strategy right here is a millionaire maker. Understanding subject tos and trusts is worth every penny of education you put into yourself. This is by far the best of the 7.
Well, just hit me. I've been watching this. We did one last year, so I've been through these, but what just dawned on me, so when I've heard you say that, I'm thinking, how, why? Think of it this way. How many houses can you buy in your own credit?
That's right. Okay. There's a limit.
How many houses can you buy on other people's credit?
Exactly.
All of them.
You build a team.
All of them. Yep. Someone has a house, you take over the mortgage, somebody's paying because they moved in, and they're paying it. So you have someone else's mortgage with their credit, and you have someone else paying it, and you do it again and again and again. As many times as you can do it, there's no stop to that because it's not your credit on the line.
Right.
Wow, that's crazy.
You build
it just dawned on me that way.
You build a team of people that will let you use their credit.
Yep.
And then it's not family.
Mm-hmm. No, it's just people with a house, and the numbers just work.
Next one down. Rehab retail.
The end.
Yeah. If you want to learn how to do that, go to A&E.
Well, but the numbers are
the Mayo formula, which I learned from Ron LeGrand, is maximum allowable offer. So the way that is you take the after renovated value, the ARV we call it, after renovated value, after it's been fixed up.
Yeah, what's it gonna be worth all done
when it's all prettied up. You take the after renovated value, multiply that times 70%, and you minus the repairs, and that gives you the maximum, the most you can pay. That's it, the most you can pay.
Yeah. So you take 30% off the top because that's all the crazy stuff that happens. That's your profit.
Right.
It's all built in there,
right.
And some room for the crazy stuff that happens.
I use, which we've talked about in the past, I'm not going to talk about it now, but I've used, I have formulas I use.
For the renovation?
For the renovation numbers.
Mm-hmm.
10, 20, 30, 10, 15, 20, 25, $30 a square foot.
Mm-hmm.
My most common one is $25 a square foot because of where I am and what I do. So I use that formula quite often.
Yeah. If you're doing a minimum renovation, a bigger renovation, more things, less things.
So in this case, the example is the ARV is 180 times 70% equals 126 minus $25,000 in repairs puts me at 101 for a maximum allowable offer. I start lower. Now you just subtract your wholesale profit. Often we use $5,000 around here. So if you take the 101, subtract it $5,000, that puts you at $96,000. That's your maximum allowable offer. I will start lower than that, like in the 80s. Like for example, I have a couple condos I was just trying to buy, and I personally backed out of it because I think the guy had a crooked nose. He was a gangsta. We talked about that last week. And I just didn't want to get involved with that, so I kind of backed out. But I started him at both condos at $71,000, and by the time I got all done, I was almost at $100,000. Okay, which was too much. I should really be in the low 90s, but I was stretching it because I was using things that we shouldn't be using. I wanted them for rental properties, not necessarily buy and flip and that kind of stuff. Because I'm really getting my business ready for the adjustment that we're going to have with real estate pretty soon. I want rentals, and I want cash flow, and I want abundance. If I need $5,000 a month in income or $10,000 a month, well, just $5,000. If I need $5,000 a month in income, I want to have $8,000 or $10,000 worth of income, rentals coming in. So when the ones that don't pay, I still have my $5,000, and that's where I'm at. I mean, those aren't my numbers, but that's where I'm at. Okay. So the result of this rehab is you pay 101. Right, and fix it up for the $25,000. I took the higher end of the numbers. You now own it for $126. You sell for $180, minus your cost to sell, which is 10% of $18,000, because we talk about that all the time. That leaves you with a $36,000 profit.
Yeah, because when you sell a house like that, often we just use a realtor.
Right.
And there's those closing costs, but it saves you a lot of aggravation, and they do the work, so that's fine.
Exactly. My last deal, and then we're going to get out of here, is seller financing. So we're going to use the same $200,000 house. They're asking $200,000.
Bill, you skipped wholesale?
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, there's nothing to talk about that. Yeah. So the wholesale was, that's why I did the
like
numbers
in the last example.
So it's 101.
Yeah.
You would minus the 5,000, so you would pay 96,000. If you paid 96,000, didn't want to do it, then you can go wholesale for $5,000.
Find a contractor, somebody wants to do it, and make the $5,000. Okay. The end.
Yeah. So I don't go looking for wholesale deals. I just, when I'm doing rehab retail, I'll start back, like I said, at 80,000, 81,000. And if I buy it cheap enough, it's just an option or a way for me to sell. It's one of my exit strategies.
Yeah.
Right. Like we're doing that with a house right now. I bought it cheap. So we're like, I don't know if I want to spend the summer out there renovating a house. So let's just wholesale it. But it's one of the exit strategies is available to us because we paid cheap enough for the house. So that's the way I buy wholesale. I don't go looking for them as a business.
That's awesome.
It's sucky.
You might as well shoot for the lower number.
Yeah. You're gonna flap your lips, and if you're gonna be embarrassed, be embarrassed. Right?
You can tell. I love you like it's embarrassing, but my number is low, but it's blah blah.
You're not gonna like it.
You're not gonna like it. So you set the stage so they agree with you instead of disagree with you.
Well, it's like. It's kind of like getting their permission. So like in sales, you'd be so I'm gonna go over your numbers here. Like I would do in management success, we would do an analysis of a guy's shop, and I'd have his profit and loss statement. So we're gonna go over your numbers here, and I'm gonna talk about your shop. But before we get started, I want you to know that we're whatever happens between the two of us stays between the two of us. It's not. I'm not going to talk to somebody else about your personal business, like client confidentiality.
Yeah.
But we're going to dig in, and we're going to hit some uncomfortable spots. Are you okay with that? And he says yes. So he just gave you carte blanche.
Yeah.
an open ticket to say whatever you want.
Yeah, I learned from a friend of mine who sold not very nice things that sometimes people get a little bit upset. You talk about it. You say, look, this might be a little upsetting, but let me just go over this with you. I'm sure we can straighten it out, or whatever it is. Yeah, if somebody blinks or like flinches, he doesn't ignore it. He said, like, what happened? You okay? Did I say something? Yeah. You just talk about it. I mean, I had a student not show up for his second lesson. He's a fireman, you know, just a life lesson here. I'm like, Jesus, he missed his lesson. I have to charge him for it. And he thought it was the next day. Oh my God! I call him and say, "Did you think it was today?" Like, "Oh man, you missed your lesson." He goes, "Oh, son of a!" And we talked about it. We laughed and said, "You know what? Come tomorrow. It's okay. We'll manage." And he loves me. He's a great guy. So you just talk about the uncomfortable stuff and smooth it out. Just be nice about it. And people like you. You like them. It's great. Just do it. Don't be afraid. Talk it straight in the eye. Bullseye.
Done. You've talked it out. Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
I'm just busting your chops. We're at the end of the show. We need to keep moving. Thank you, by the way.
I'm done.
So, owner financing. Mm-hmm. They owe $200,000, or their value is $200,000. They don't owe anything. The value is $200,000. They're asking $200,000. Mm-hmm. Why do they do that? Because most people that have a free and clear house have spent 20 years putting their money in there. This, if you think about it, is the oldest 401k known to mankind.
Yeah.
Because they've been putting 20s and 50s into it for 30 years. Mm-hmm. So now it's time for them to cash it out or go to the savings account that they think they have and get their money out. So you're gonna be hard pressed to get them to sell for less than what it's worth. Mm. The reason why they're for sale by owner in most cases is because they don't even want to pay the fee to the realtor. They want their whole $200,000.
Yep.
So we need to give that to them. So the offer is this: you give them $200,000, right? But you do it on principal only payments, right? So if we were to give them $1,000 a month, right, and a $10,000 deposit, right, and payments for 5 years, and an option for 2 more years after that, here's how it would play out. You rent the property on a rent to own, okay? You sell for $210,000, okay, for the sale price. Mm-hmm. You get a $15,000 non-refundable deposit. That's about how much? It's about...
And the percentage-wise?
Yeah, I don't even know what the percentage. That's fine. So $15,000 for a non-refundable deposit.
15%.
Yeah, I was going to say 15%.
15%.
Okay? So you get $15,000. No, it's not 15%.
No. 7.5. I'm guessing.
Doesn't matter. So we're going to get $15,000 for a non-refundable deposit.
Oh, it's a little over 3. That's what it is. Yeah. It's like 3.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, it's usually between 3 and 5 with me.
Yeah.
And you're going to get $1,800 a month for a rent. Mm-hmm. Now, here's what happens. First of all, you promised the guy a $10,000 deposit, right? Mm-hmm. You promised the seller a $10,000 deposit.
That's
Who's
right.
paying the deposit?
The buyer.
The buyer's giving you $15,000.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to take out of the $15,000, you're going to pay your seller $10,000, and you're keeping $5,000.
Okay.
Okay. So the results of this deal are this. First of all, you have principal only payments. So your tenant buyer is paying rent.
Right. He's not paying the principal.
He's not expecting a principal reduction.
Right.
So that means every time he pays $1,000, every time he pays his $1,800 rent payment, you're going to take the first $1,000 and pay your mortgage, which is going to reduce your mortgage by $1,000. So every month, you're automatically making a $1,000 profit. You're not going to realize that profit till you sell, but you're making $1,000 profit.
Your equity is going up $1,000.
Your equity is going up $1,000.
Right. With a bank loan, it's going to go up like $22 that first month because
you're paying mostly interest.
Yeah. So this is totally different. It's a total game changer.
So that means if you pay $1,000 a month for 60 months, you've reduced your principal balance by $60,000
over 5 years.
Over 5 years
60
for 60 months times 1,000.
That's it.
Plus, you had $18,000 profit from your monthly cash flow. Because you had $1,800 minus your taxes, minus your insurance, minus your seller's payment of $1,000, right?
Sure.
But leaves you with, I didn't put the number here, but it's $18,000 over the course. I think it's $400 a month, but it's $18,000 over the course of 5 years.
Yep.
Okay, so you got $60,000 for principal reduction, $18,000 for cash flow, plus you got $10,000 because you sold over the 200.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so you got $10,000 in equity. Total profit $88,000. So you bought a house for $200,000, sold it for $210,000, and made $88,000.
I like your math, Bill.
And this is why I tell you that I don't buy and sell houses. I buy and sell financing because that's where I'm good, is in the financing, because the money's in the money. And and the way I do that is by paying attention to my marketing and finding the right people that will want to do this. And there are a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
So we ran a little bit over as usual. I know that I've done this in the past. I just wanted to take a different stab at it, because normally I do if you owe $100,000, and I do the easy numbers. I stepped it up by doing $200,000 numbers all the way through, and this little booklet that we have here that has all the deal structures. It's learn how to use Bill's 7 ways to buy and sell houses to make big checks, plus specific examples for each deal with the math. We'll have that up on the website. Go back and hopefully soon to the free stuff, to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff. And you'll find it there. Last thing I want to say is I'm shouting out because it's not loud enough. I'm getting some people helping me, but not enough. I mean, we are at this particular point, I think we're about 925,000 downloads. We're shooting for 1 million, obviously. So I know there's a lot of people out there that listen to us. I'm begging you, and my hands are down. I mean, I'm down on my knees and my hands are clapped together, and I'm begging you, pleading you, please go give us a review. I think we've got about 80 or 100 reviews, and I keep losing my status in iTunes, and because I'm a guy that likes to keep score, I don't want to do that. Quite frankly, I was ahead of Grant Cardone for quite a while, and because I think iTunes just changed their algorithm a little bit, they're weighing a little heavier on the reviews, and I don't have enough. So I feel like I spend quite a bit of money to have everybody here. I mean, there's 3 of us here every single morning, every single Thursday, to record this, and we upload it on Monday. I pay. It's costing me money, nobody else. Okay, and I want to have the satisfaction of getting ranked in iTunes. So I really need your help. I really need you to go put a review, good, bad, or indifferent. Go put a review. I've got 3 or 4 people that put some reviews in there, which puts us at like 4 or 4.5 stars, because I've got 3 or 4 people back. And when we first started, believe it or not, and the static and all that kind of stuff, and we didn't have a good format. They're complaining about that, so I want to outweigh those.
The old ones are still sitting there, of course. Yeah.
I want to get up to 5-star review or 4.5 stars again, and I just really need your help. So I feel like we pour our guts into this podcast. It would be good if you, the listener, gave us some exchange for our efforts and helped us, because we help you all the time. So I'd like you to help us. It's just reciprocity. Please go put a review on iTunes. And if you so feel like your time is worth that much, send me a support ticket at flippinghousesforrookies.com/support, and I'll mail you a book. If you feel like your review or your time is worth something, I've done that recently. If you go do a review and I can go read it and find it, you'll have to tell me where the review is. If I can read it and find it, good, bad, or even if it's a bad review, I'll still mail you a book. I want the truth. I don't want to bribe you to say something nice about me.
No, well, we use the reviews though to change the show, to tweak it, to know what you want to listen to. Right. What you want us to talk about. So it's not just for our reviews; it also helps us as well. So we're trying to help you that way from your feedback. So lastly,
it's a good point, Peter, because I have to tell you, now that we have 158 shows, I mean, the only thing we talk about is the 7 ways to do real estate. So we've got 158 shows talking about the same thing all the time, but it always feels different. So I'm kind of like stretching these days to write. I mean, I used to write one of these shows and it would take me, half an hour, an hour. Nowadays, it takes me sometimes 2 or 3 hours to write a show, because I'm like doing some research. I'm pulling from nowhere to get content. So, it's more than just a show. So I pour a lot into this, and that's why I want reviews back. I really want exchange from my listeners. But to your point, if you send us a support ticket on a specific topic you want to talk about or some issue you want to talk about, I would love that, because it would be easier for me to do a podcast and not have to invent content.
We're wondering what you want to hear about.
Yeah. And if it's something we can help, I mean, even if it's something simple or easy and you think it's not worth the whole podcast, it doesn't matter. I can either turn it into a podcast or make it part of a podcast.
We should have a podcast once a month. Listeners' questions.
Right. So please send it in to support. That's flippinghousesforrookies.com/support. Okay. And that's where I am. So the end of the sermon is over.
The end.
So thank you for listening, and please go give us a review. Over and out.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.